Welcome back, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. We're here with Andy Shectman, which is the CEO of Miles Franklin. If you guys want to purchase from them, which I highly recommend you do, send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know I sent you. Andy would love to hear it. They are one of, if not the most respected companies. They are still working with the U.S. Mint, as the U.S. Mint basically banned everyone from buying directly from them. And you could build a nice business relationship with them, since Andy, has so many connections, especially moving forwards as it gets harder to find silver. These dealers are going to have to up prices, and a lot of them are out of stock with things. So yeah, I think it's really important to move forwards, building relationships, and Andy can definitely offer that, and I'm honored to be able to represent them. So yeah, what's up, Andy? Anything new going on?
Good to see you, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new stuff going on. I don't know if it's just me or it seems like, crazy things are happening. And at the very least, it seems that no one really trusts the government anymore. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anyone's seen our president through four objects being shot down over a period of 4 or 5 days that we were talking about offline. And it's kind of emblematic, I think, of a lot of what's happening, the mistrust, the distrust of what we're being fed by the media, and the lack of support or comforting, if you will, or strength or leadership from the president. And it's not just here. I mean, it goes all the way into economics and inflation and all of the
Yeah.
things that have been bothering people. It just seems that more and more things keep happening. Now you're seeing trains derail. You're seeing problems with the air traffic controller system here and in Canada simultaneously, and we're led to believe, or made to believe, that it's just a coincidence. More and more things seem to be spinning out of control, I guess you could say. And there's an old saying, it's a curse. May you live in interesting times. That's a Chinese curse. This is anything but dull and complacent. And although I'm okay with dull and complacent, it is a interesting time, if you will, no pun intended, to be trying to be keeping track of what's happening and try to make heads or tails of it. So I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, I mean, and even like shooting down those objects, I think I remember hearing it's like $350 million just for one rocket that they used to shoot down or whatever, something like that. And then I reflect back to them talking about how a single Russian Tomahawk missile has like however many tons of silver that's used in it. But yeah, those
500
objects,
ounces of
yeah,
silver
500 ounces, that's what it
in the
was.
tip of every
Yeah,
tomahawk
yeah,
missile. Yeah,
yeah,
the mismanagement of money, the amount of money it costs, and the mismanagement of it is ridiculous. On one hand, they tell us that $5 billion for border security for a wall that Trump wanted is too much. Yet we've watched 5 million people come across the border illegally, and 5 billion is too much. Yet 100 billion, 20 times that amount is okay to give to the Ukraine in a battle, in a war
right,
that we have no business being in. You want to
right,
talk about stupidity? The $1.75 trillion
right.
omnibus bill that says specifically no money can go towards border protection, yet within that bill, and that is U.S. border protection, there's $410 million that is earmarked for border security for Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman, but none for the U.S.
Yeah.
So when they're shooting missiles at balloons and wasting money. I mean, here again, this is just the end days, the end
Yeah.
game
We're
for a
poking the
Keynesian
bear.
system
Like
that has
everything.
lost all sanity.
Yeah. It's like everything that we shouldn't be doing, we're doing. We're poking the bear. We're funding, countries that we were, the enemies we really don't want to get involved with for several different reasons. And then the overspending. And like, I try not to get into politics on this channel. I just try to speak reality, like I don't care if you're left, right, up, down, front, center, sideways. I really don't care. I just speak about, the facts, and it's a fact that Biden is overspending. It's a fact, that the dollar has lost 98% of his purchasing power. It's a fact we're $30 trillion in debt. And I think that it's, even if people are just now catching on about, maybe just now hearing about other alternatives, which is precious metals, even if they're not someone who got in before, but maybe even just now, or a lot of people ask, is it too late? Is it too late? And it's like, it's never too late. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that buy silver at $100 after the hype is already up, but at least you're still putting your money into something that holds its value. And then looking at like China reopening, that's going to be, China's the biggest consumer of silver, right? So we're seeing all these things kind of line up. That's looking like silver and gold. I could definitely go into gold as well, like you did on our last show. Gold, regardless, putting your money into things that hold its value is going to be critical. And I think people finally are starting to catch on, since, like you said, they're not the distrust of the government starting to become almost mainstream now.
Yeah, it is. And, we have, if you take a look at, by example, when you talk about putting your money into assets, whether it be gold or silver, there's an old saying that says assets feed you, liabilities eat you. JP Morgan came out with a report just the other day that says China currently holds 80% of the global copper inventories, 70% of the global corn inventories, 51% of the global wheat, 46% of the global soybeans, 70% of the global crude oil, and 20% of the global aluminum inventories. The London Metals Exchange reported last year, 2022, that their global aluminum, or their aluminum inventories, rather, not global, their aluminum inventories on the LME, the 140-year-old exchange, fell by over 75% last year. And lo and behold, China holds 20% of the global aluminum stockpile. You talk about an institution that said that if the deliveries off the LME continue the way that they have been in 2022, that there will be none left in 2023. India imported 304 million ounces last year. That's more than all of the silver in COMEX, and almost 10 times more than the registered category, those bars that are available for delivery. The majority of silver within the COMEX ecosystem is not for sale. It belongs to people like me, or customers of mine, or family offices, or whatnot. They're in strong hands. And part of what Ted Butler talks about is this great movement back and forth of millions and millions and millions of ounces that are traded every day from one bank to the other, to back to back. And it's just done to create this this big charade, because what he's talking about really is that there's no silver for delivery, but the movement back and forth certainly makes it look like it, but it's a zero-sum game in the end. And you're right. It's I think right now, realizing that when we're talking, whether it be globally or at home, things are certainly starting to speed up. Speaking of Russia and what's happening, the U.S. State Department just came out and made an announcement to all citizens of the United States, whether traveling or living in Russia, to leave Russia immediately due to war in the Ukraine and the possibility of arbitrary arrests or harassment by the Russian law enforcement agencies. This is beginning to get real. You had Russia at the same time cut production of oil by 500,000 barrels per day. And what does our president do? He goes and pillages, once again, the strategic stockpile of oil by 26 million barrels. That will only put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And to make things worse, Saudi Arabia, just to throw a little bit of mud in Biden's face, just cut production of their oil by 167,000 barrels or something to that extent per day. You're 156,000. So you're talking 656,000 barrels per day between Russia and Saudi Arabia are now off the market. What does that really mean? What that really means to me is that this will reignite inflation, because everything ultimately boils down to the cost of energy to produce and to transport. And I think this will make the Fed become hawkish again. The Fed, who not too long ago told us inflation wasn't a problem. And then they told us it was transitory, whatever the hell that means. Then they told us it was structural, but then it had peaked and was starting to go down, and a soft landing was in sight, and that we would start to see inflation go down. But what did they do? They raised rates to 4, then to 4.5, now to 4.75, because we keep seeing inflation rear its head. They were wrong about it. It's in the service sector right now. Inflation is stronger than they thought. And now John Williams of the New York Fed, not John Williams of Shadow Stats, who I talked about a lot, but John Williams of the New York Fed says that we need to have 5.5% on the federal funds rate, even though I thought inflation was transitory or under control or was starting to come down. And I think that what we are seeing right now is a period of time where there's chaos everywhere and uncertainty and misinformation and mistrust, whether it be from the Fed or the information that came out of the Systemic Resolution Advisory Committee on the on FDIC, who was telling their committee that there will be bank runs, that there will be bail-ins, that the banks are on thin ice. The systemic nature of it is going to create bail-ins and bank runs, but they don't want the public to know about it because of the unintended consequences. They should have thought about this before they filmed it and let it get on YouTube. But we are entering a period of time where it appears as though the central banks are, if not preparing for war, in many cases, at the very least, they are massively de-dollarizing and buying records amount of gold and silver, to your point, with China and Russia leading the effort. And whether it be by accumulating precious metals or, in the case of China, rare earth metals and commodities that they will need to build a war chest. And and then the icing on the cake is just a couple of weeks ago in Davos, Saudi Arabia, after already applying for BRICS, after already saying China is their most important trading partner in oil for this year and the next 50, told the world that they're open to taking other currencies for oil. So the loss of the petro status becomes more and more and more a probability. What you and I talked about the very first time I was on your show. So when we see all of these mismanagements, all of this distrust, the gaping hole at the border, the fact that there is uncertainty and fear permeating through the country, and the leadership is not only lacking in terms of seeing them or hearing them. When we do, all we hear and see are stupid decisions that they're making, putting us further and further and further into the hole. And the Federal Reserve, who is supposed to be the beacon of safety, has a gaping hole in their balance sheet right now and is running an operational loss of over $31 billion. So the Fed isn't really anything but insolvent right now and running at a balance sheet of this 200 times leveraged with 85 billion in cash reserves against almost $9 trillion balance sheet. So the whole world is upside down. Everything is crazy. And all of the things that are happening around the world geopolitically, and this growing chorus of countries that are striking deals in energy and in military support and in currency. We just saw Russia and Iran, just like the M bridge that we talked about developed between China and the United Arab Emirates, which allows cross-border central bank digital currencies to go back and forth without going through the SWIFT system. Same thing just happened between Iran and Russia. These countries are all joining together, accumulating commodities, striking deals, finding ways to trade with one another that sidesteps the intermediary banking system of the West. This is how they impose their sanctions. And this is what has incentivized these countries to find a back door. But the thing about it is that when I started talking about this a few years ago, in doing my preparation, there would be one news story every few weeks to a month. And now there's 1 or 2 or 3 a day, it seems. Right. And I think that's where things are starting to speed up and become a little bit more real.
Yeah. And I always was kind of curious, and I'm sure other people are, with this new system, do you think that they would completely cut off the US? Like how do you see that working, this digital currency backed by physical commodities? Like, is there any type of, like, I don't know, like, how conspiratorial, I mean, we know this is happening, but do we have an idea, or do you have an idea of really like what that would look like, or who would have access? Is it global? Is it, what does that look like?
We have to remember that the countries that comprise the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the BRICS, and the Belt Road Initiative are north of 80% of human population. So these are the countries with all of the commodities, and they are basing a system upon transparency and commodities rather than debt instruments in an opaque way of showing the world what is backing the system. So I don't know that they care so much. I think they're trying to rally against the West. But I was asked this similar question when I was in Vancouver recently, and I was interviewed by Kitco. And the interviewer, Michelle McCory, said to
I love
me,
her, man.
"Yeah,
Uh,
she's one of the most challenging interviews I've ever." She
yeah,
said to me at the beginning of the interview, "I fully am with you on everything you're saying, and I believe and I support what you're saying, but I'm going to push back a little bit for the benefit of our listeners." And it was challenging as hell. And she said to me, "Well, what if Russia loses the war?" And I thought about it for a moment, and I said, could that derail this deal? And I said, no, I don't think so, because 85% of the world's already trading with Russia, even through these sanctions. It's not bothering them the way that it does the West. A lot of these countries look at the West as a hypocritical bully. And so they haven't stopped trading with Russia. But I thought about it for a moment. There was a report that just came out by the International Monetary Fund, which is 150 plus countries that are Western friendly, was developed at the Bretton Woods meeting in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire at the end of the war, World War II. And, I talked a lot about in 2020 when they came out and said, we want a new Bretton Woods, that being the Bretton Woods organization. All these countries are saying, we want a new system. And I kind of thought that as being Western unfriendly, but they just came out with a new report, and you can find it on their website. And it's titled something to the extent of Gold, an International Reserve, a Barbarous Relic No More. And I thought about that for a moment, and I said, well, maybe the way to do this would be to beat them at their own punch. A lot of people thought through the years that the IMF would issue something called special drawing rights if the dollar ever ran into trouble. All of these countries contribute to a new currency called special drawing rights. Well, if the IMF is saying we want a new system and calling gold no longer a barbarous relic, just what if the IMF, along with the Western countries that are part of it, including the United States, were to beat them to the draw and issue a gold-backed special drawing rights? I don't know how it all plays out, but I can tell you that the infrastructure that is being set up is completely void of United States participation. So ultimately, maybe we find a way to become more of a world that is shrinks and we all trade with one another, or maybe this is a way for all of these countries to stand up against the West,
right.
and they don't want us part of it. I don't know how that all plays out, but I don't think the West will go down without a fight. And maybe that fight is directly at these countries, or maybe they choose a backdoor and form a coalition with the IMF and issue their own gold-backed currency to stand up to the currencies that we've already been told the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization recently came out and said, according to Alistair McLeod, that they're going to issue a gold-backed settlement currency for the entire Eurasian continent. So whether it's BRICS or whether it's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or whether it's a conglomerate of them all, I think it's happening. And I think the way that the West could stand up to it would be to do the exact same thing through the IMF. Will it happen? Who knows? But it is interesting to see the IMF come out with that report saying gold is no longer a barbarous relic.
Yeah, there's been some little hints here and there, like federal chairman Jerome Powell coming out, I think it was like a year, maybe 2 years ago, saying that he could see a currency coexisting or even replacing the dollar. Like he himself said
Yes, he said there's room for more than one world reserve currency, which was very interesting.
And then we had the one guy a couple months ago talking about or asking if, or trying to pass I think he was trying to pass something that was allowing us to go back to the gold standard, or asking, passing some type of levy or something. But then also I wanted to mention
That was
under,
Representative Mooney from West Virginia, I want to say.
yeah,
And God
yeah,
bless a guy like that who's standing up for
right,
something.
right. Yeah, I remember us covering that. And then understanding blockchain, it's decentralized. So like Bitcoin, there's no Bitcoin of China, no Bitcoin of America. So if I hear them talk about a digital currency, you know,
That's not
it
decentralized, though. A digital currency would be permission based. It would be a
so
centralized currency.
oh, okay, so it'd be different than like crypto, like it would be something that,
The
okay,
one benefit of it, as far as I am concerned, it would not be decentralized. It would be centralized.
okay, that's it.
But the ability, if they are indeed going to peg commodities to it, like we were told the new BRICS currency would be a basket of currencies tied to local currencies, meaning the Brazilian currency, the Russian
Right.
currency, Chinese, the Indian, the rupee, the ruble, the real, whatever, all of these currencies together, along with commodities. So all of these together would form the new BRICS currency, kind of like a special drawing rights. But
Yeah.
the commodities that would be pegged to the system, the immutability of those commodities, the veracity of those commodities could be pledged and shown on a distributed ledger. Now, there's a lot of bad blood going on right now in this industry, centered around some of the stable coin, um, precious metal programs. I'm not going to mention names. If you read, you'll know who they are. But it all centers around the same thing. You can have a distributed ledger that shows that you have gold on it. Think of FTX, but who's auditing it? Where is it being held? Just because it's a distributed ledger doesn't mean it's real. Doesn't mean that it shows it, but who is verifying it? And so that would be the key through this BRICS deal, where maybe they set it up and have everything held in Swiss vaults or whatnot and audited by the big three. I'm just thinking out loud, but the distributed ledger technology would show the veracity of it, but it is not going to be open source. It's not going to be
Right.
decentralized. It would most certainly be a permission based
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah, this is so interesting because we're like in unmarked. I mean, we're in a whole different world. This is all foreign, pun intended.
Yeah,
And
these are uncharted waters, no
yeah,
question about it. We've never
yeah,
been here, and the world's never been as indebted as it is right now. And with interest rates rising globally, the implications, to me, signal change. And a new system has to arise from what has been an experiment gone awry, a Keynesian-based monetary system, and which is based upon spending and taxation and debt, versus the Austrian, which would be something more along the lines of what a commodity-backed system would be, or as Zoltan Pozsar calls it, Bretton Woods 3, which would be based upon savings, investment, and reinvestment, and commodities backing the whole thing. So this environment we are in is lending itself, if you will, to change. And I think that's where we're at right now.
yeah, yeah, man. And like, let's. I always try to imagine someone that just found my channel that doesn't know much about precious metals, which I get a lot. It's still from the Robert Kiyosaki interview that I did. I still, till this day, hey, I just saw you on Robert's channel. I want to look into silver, and like they're clueless. So I'm just trying to picture them like getting into this whole world, not even knowing that about all this and how confusing that would be. So sometimes I try to like get back to the basics. And there is a lot of people that ask, where to buy from. I did want to kind of revert real quick. What makes Miles Franklin different? I mean, we see the Texas billionaire that bought like $50 million worth, from you. And I can't imagine someone trying to buy that much from like Atmex or something. And we know that, you guys are a lot more personal. And I try to tell these people I try to break this stuff down, but I'd like to hear it from you yourself, since you're the CEO. So
Well, as a footnote, I had lunch with Robert um, about 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, and he actually brought up to me that the three of us, you, I, and he, should do a show together
That would
here real
be
soon. I got a Valentine's Day text from him in the middle of the night last night, and when I reply back to him this afternoon or this evening, I will tell him I spoke with you, and we'd love to get that on the
that
calendar.
would be oh my gosh.
So it'll be fun to do a
That
three-way conversation and throw some of these questions out where we can speak to the average person. And, you know, if you talk about the fact that from the Harvard Endowment Fund all the way down to Joe Sixpack, the average amount of allocation to the metals portfolio in this country is 0.5%. To your point, almost everyone is clueless as it pertains to gold and silver in this country. And there will come a time when that changes. But what makes us different is, well, there are several things. You know, first of all, we're all selling what is in essence a homogenous commodity. Whether you eat a McDonald's hamburger in Ohio or in Florida, it tastes the same, right? So same thing is true about an ounce of silver. Whether you have an ounce of silver in on the Bahnhofstrasse in Zurich or in downtown Detroit, it's the same thing and it's recognized world over. And so when you're talking about companies that sell commodities, what separates them is first and foremost reputation. We've been doing this is our 34th year in business this month. We've never had a customer complaint. We've done 8 billion in sales without a customer complaint. We're one of only 27 United States Mint authorized resellers in the world, an honor that we're certainly very, very proud of.
oh yeah.
We maintain the A+ ratings with the Better Business Bureau and all that kind of stuff. We have worldwide exclusives with Brinks that make us the envy of the storage industry. I'm so proud of the reputation we have, but you know what? My corporate entity is located in Minnesota, even though I moved to Delray Beach 2 years ago, where we've had a satellite office located for 10 years. The state of Minnesota does not care about my great reputation. It's the only state in America that regulates what is a federally non-regulated industry. It is an industry that is akin to the Wild West, yet in Minnesota, they put an end to that by making any company that is domiciled in Minnesota or any company outside that sells into the state be licensed, background checked every single year, and bonded every single year. So it holds us to an incredibly higher standard than 99.9% of the companies in the industry, most of which will not do business in the state of Minnesota because of the licensing requirements. So what makes us different? I guess we are a relationship-based company that does things the right way, that is as competitive as anyone, that's never had a complaint, and that is licensed and bonded and accredited not only by the state of Minnesota but by the U.S. Mint. And we hold these honors close to the vest, and we're very proud of them, and certainly strive to uphold those honors bestowed upon us. We often talk about the embarrassment that I have felt with our new website that I told the world would be ready in August, and it is done. In fact, we just gave it to some of our brokers here to look at and give us their feedback on. We've had a little bit of upheaval within the organization.
Well, I bet.
And a lot of it centered around this website. And we're very close to launching it. But even when we do, we're still going to be a hybrid model.
Right.
We believe in relationships. And I think where we're heading, relationships are
Yeah.
very important. I think you know by now you could call me or anyone that
happened.
contacted you
Yep.
that was important, and you
happened.
could get in touch with me like
Yeah.
that, and it would be taking care of whatever it is. And where we're heading, I think relationships are important.
Yeah.
So I guess in a world of selling homogenous product that is the same wherever you are in the world, what differentiates is who you buy it from, the reputation they have, how they will stand behind you. And it's just like anything. You never realize how important a good reputation is until there's a problem. And
Yeah.
that's where we excel. So that's really what makes us different. And I can tell you that we strive to uphold that reputation, and something we take great pride in.
Yeah. I think one of the main one of the biggest things that I think people probably don't even really notice or even think about is your network. You know, how you could hit up Robert Kiyosaki. You're getting interviewed by Michelle McCory. You're friends with Ted Butler and Keith Neumeyer. And to be buying from someone like that compared to just some random person filling an order behind the screen, and like the other day I was talking about you and I was like, it's kind of like buying from your best friend or buying from your friend compared to buying from some random, place behind, down the street. It's a lot more beneficial and it could be a lot safer buying from someone who knows you as well, cares about you. And like you were saying, any one of my audience members, which has happened time and time and time again, message me and they're like, hey, I'll put you through. I'll call you up or I'll email you and you guys will link up. And they always, email me back a couple of days later thanking me. And that's something you really don't get buying precious metals. Like you don't really get that
I
luxury. So
appreciate that very much.
yeah,
Those are kind words, and they weren't earned easily.
yeah.
Those relationships that I've made with Rick Rule and Robert Kiyosaki and people in this industry that are David Morgan and all the people in this industry that are very well known and revered. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I will tell you that it's really important in life to maintain a good reputation, period. Whether you're talking about someone in your position who's talking to the public or someone in mine who owns a company. I didn't always talk to the public. Long before I was talking to the public, I was making relationships and earning them by doing as I say. That doesn't mean I never made mistakes. We do. I have. You're defined not by the fact that you haven't made mistakes, in my opinion, but more relevant, how you react to them once you do. And I'm proud of our reputation, and I'm proud of my friendships, and I do believe that that's what makes the world go round. Relationships. You often hear it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that is damn true. And I've kind of shown that to you
Oh man.
personally,
Yeah.
outside of anything we do here on camera. And you've earned that from me. And so that's the way it goes in this industry. It's a very tight fraternity. And you can see by all of the stuff going on right now, without mentioning any names or anything, what happens when that trust is compromised. And there are certainly some crazy things that you know of that are happening in this industry that center around a loss of trust. And that's something that I won't ever allow to happen. So when you ask me what makes us different, it is, look, almost every person who works for my company are people that I've known my entire life. Go back to childhood, friends with, elementary school, little league, high school, junior high, college, every one of them. To me, they're family. And it's all about surrounding yourself with a network of people that are trustworthy, that look out for your best interests. Mutual beneficial trades or mutually beneficial relationships is what makes the world go around.
Mm.
Yes, everyone to the core has something within them that you could call being selfish. And that's kind of a bad word because we all want to advance our own agenda. But at the same time, if you do it without helping other people advance theirs, you don't get anywhere. It's called being short-sighted. And that's encapsulated. What I'm saying is true because that really encapsulates mine and your relationship. And it's been earned and by both of us. So that's kind of the way that I run my business. And in a world where everything is the same product that we sell, it's who you're talking to and knowing they got your back. So I really do appreciate your kind words. And I too am honored to be associated with you. You are wise beyond your years, and I appreciate what you're saying and the way that you do things.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I the last thing to say about this, I can tell you're like me where you genuinely like helping people, and that's pretty cool because you don't really see that much. There's always, you could clearly see their motive or see that they're doing it for monetary purposes or whatever, but you can tell that, you genuinely like helping people and people see that as well, even without saying it, people just can see by your demeanor, just
appreciate that very much. I do.
Yeah.
And more than anyone, probably that I do business with or have a business relationship with, that's true. And I wish more people understood that. You know, a lot of times you'll get people say he's talking his book, he's pumping this, he's pumping
Yeah.
that. Look,
No.
you know, I walked into this business as a 19, 20-year-old kid, a family started business that I have run with for over 30 years. And yes, I'm proud to have a business that I have started since I was 20 years old and turned into a very well respected company. And yes, I make money selling precious metals, but I believe in my soul what I am doing, and
Yeah.
I do as I say. I am not a hypocrite. In fact, I am certainly not the poster child for Finance 101. I am the most um, overweighted precious metals investor around, and it's what I believe in, and I
Yeah.
try to impart that upon people in a way that is objective. I try to be objective, even if my own beliefs would be greater than what that objectivity would allow me to convey. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's a tough business that we're in these days, trying to show people sound money and what's happening around us. And unfortunately, most of the world is cynical and skeptical, and immediately are defensive. And that's one of the things I like about you. It's never been that way, and I happy to keep doing what we're doing and telling the world about what's going on. I think we make a formidable team together, and
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed our conversations. And I think we take it to the next level and start doing things with Robert and others. And because we need to get the word out there
Yeah.
past the half a
Exactly.
percent allocation, past the people that, as you mentioned, and as I agree, are clueless on what real money is. And that to me is kind of what my mission has been. And speaking with a young guy like you, who is talking to not just young people, a lot of your people we talk to are much older,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's nice to find
Most.
a younger person that is understanding what's
Yeah.
happening, because most don't.
Yeah. My analytics mainly are 65 years and older, and the second highest is like 45 to 55. So it's kind of funny that most people are twice my age that watch me, but yeah, I do try to bring in a lot of younger people. But I also wanted to say this real quick. I think the main reason that people like talking or like watching us or something is because our main purpose is to spread awareness, and it's called a safe haven asset for a reason. It's a lot safer to ask someone or try to push this instead of stocks or crypto. And yes, you sell precious metals, but you're trying to help people put their money into something that holds its value. And like for me, when I tell people to buy from you, it's not because I can make $1 off of them. It's because I'm honored to be able to offer someone to buy from someone like you, which I mentioned is building a network, a relationship that's an authorized dealer through the US Mint. It's more me helping them find a good dealer and not me just trying to make a penny off of them. And then you're on the other end trying to help them put their money in something as the dollar is collapsing. And so, I think that's what sets us aside. It's not about money, but that comes along with it. So yeah.
That's well said, and that's the part that people immediately are cynical about. It's all about money. Yeah, you need money to live, makes the
Yeah.
world go round. But if you're a fraud, you're easily outed. And done this for a very long time, and I've never wronged anyone in my entire career, and I won't do that. And I know that about you as well. So we'll continue to do this
Yeah.
every week, and we'll continue to monitor what's happening. Because I will say this, that I've never experienced in all of the years I've been doing this, the speed at which things are accelerating. And it's never been more important. And I want people to understand, and I've said this a lot, this phrase with you, that price is the greatest tool of misdirection. We
I
are
gotta
being
write that down.
misdirected by price. We are being misdirected by price and rhetoric. At the same time, the most sophisticated money and the most informed money in the world are draining the stockpiles of physical commodities from the platforms, the global platforms that sell them, that trade them. And this is exactly classic misdirection. This is the book, The Art of War. This is exactly what you would do if you want to throw people off the scent. You suppress the paper price while you accumulate the physical and suppress the rhetoric. Every news station, radio station, newspaper, and magazine in the United States is owned by 4 companies. So the information is filtered. And so you have to go. The reason people listen to you is that there aren't many people like you who are talking and backing things with fact. I listen to you. Very rarely do you say anything that is not rooted in fact.
Yeah.
It's okay
I won't
to,
talk about it if I don't know it.
and it's okay to say, this is my opinion of how this
Yeah.
fact plays out. But getting the information is something that's not easy to do. You understand how hard it is to prepare and to read and to dig and to find it, and then to try to convey it in a logical fashion. And this is what your mission is, and this is what I try to do as well. And
I don't think a lot of people know that part. I don't think a lot of people understand, how many hours go into this and searching through countless articles and rolling out the ones that are BS or the ones that, that people don't, I always try to talk about the stuff you need to know, not the stuff that, is just, or whatever that, but I wanted to, go back to the price is the greatest tool of misdirect. Is it tool? Price is
the greatest tool of misdirection. You suppress the paper price with levered contracts. And to give people an understanding of just what I mean by that, currently, or a week or two ago, I asked my trader, how much money do we need to have in our margin account in order to control a 100-ounce gold contract? And his answer at the time was like $7,000. So $7,000 in a margin account controls $180,000 worth of gold. And the trade itself is pennies, few bucks. So what if you're a commercial bank or a sovereign wealth fund or a central bank, and you throw 500 million in your margin account? Do you see how you can create a perception of reality through levered contracts that are 35 times or so leverage to the price? And that leverage is what enables these players to create an illusion of reality that gold and silver are no good. And at the same time, they're draining the exchanges of the physical commodity without any competition because people are being misdirected by price. Well, if gold and silver aren't going up in the midst of 40-year high inflation and war and chaos and idiocy within our own government and administration, then when will it? That's exactly what people
and think. Why are they buying up boatloads of it?
And they buy it up. That's exactly right. But any game you've ever played in your life, the idea is to misdirect your opponent. Any sports game, you misdirect through, through the premise of the game. Think of the no-look pass in basketball, or there's a play in football called misdirection. The whole line goes this way, and one person goes that way. It's wide open. And everyone's over there.
Especially on the scale, like Russia, and on the scale of, the way the world's going with oil and energy. And if they're, trying to kick off the USD as a world, like that itself should prove the extent of the misdirection and the extent they're willing to go to pull this off. And
just look at the term false flag event. I mean, that's misdirection. The Nord Stream pipeline, these are all misdirections in one form or another. And I think people need to understand that the truth of it is that your eyes will lie to you. Your gut won't. And that to me is really the most important thing. Is right now you need to let your gut be your financial advisor.
Wow. I think we should wrap this episode up here. This is definitely my favorite episode. We got into so much stuff.
Well, this is how we should do things more often. We don't need to have a script. For any of your listeners that are interested, have them send us an email at info@milesfranklin. Say the Silver Slayer sent me. We will send them an up-to-date price list. We'll answer any questions they have. We'll contact them if they wish to be contacted. And thanks for a great discussion. I'll look forward to coming back and seeing you next week, Wednesday,
Yep.
and we
Every
can pick
Wednesday.
it up. And yeah, every Wednesday. And you need to figure out how we can do this live stream. I
Yeah.
can't figure that stuff out,
I
but
will
I would love to
honestly,
do that and talk to your listeners.
yeah. I'll just because I'm always afraid, like, well, if I have to practice it, which means I'll be live on my channel, and what if like it's messed up and people are like, why I'm live and they're like, where is he at or why is he? But I might
You've
just have
earned
to do
enough
it.
trust in this industry
Right.
where you tell
I'll just
people,
put it
hey,
as like
give
test
this a
live
shot.
stream or something. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just type like test live stream and just kind of mess around. Um, I'll do that in the next couple of days and figure that out. But yeah, so yeah, we could do that soon. I'm also doing some giveaways as I approach 100,000 subscribers. My channel's growing faster than ever, which is insane for someone who's been making videos for like 7 years. Usually their channel peaked years ago. Usually at 7 years, your channel, you've already, but now
You're
I
like
look
a
at,
fine wine. You're getting better with
yeah,
age.
it's
And
it's incredible.
I've told you before, I'm also willing to partake in those giveaways. So maybe
Yeah,
next week we do a live stream if we're able to, or in next week's interview we can do something like that. And I'll also give away a couple ounces of silver and do
yeah,
my part to help grow your channel as well.
yeah. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer, Andy Shectman. I will see you guys soon. Peace.